What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We had a really good week last week as far as schedule-wise with the fights. We had boxing, tremendous fights. One of them was possibly Fight of the Year already candidate. You had the UFC and you had bare knuckles, so you kind of pick your poison. The good thing about the whole schedule was in the morning you had UFC Saudi Arabia, and then it went on as the day went on. So it was a very, very good day for people who really enjoy combat sports. Overall, the card kind of unfolded the way we thought. Wasn't as good as we wanted it to be. I've had better performances. I obviously picked Israel Adesanya. We actually swept the whole prelims, which is crazy. And then it started getting spotty on the main card. But the main card's kind of where it counts, right? I mean, especially in DraftKings, the prelims is where you want to kind of sit because you got all the casuals coming in and they're playing the main event and the co-main event and stuff like that. So the prelims is kind of the sweet spot from a DFS perspective. But we did have some bets on the main card that just didn't pan out for us. But not an overall. I mean, wasn't really no harm, no foul. Took a minor loss last week. But again, the big talk of the town is the Fight Brain thing landed another really big dog in boxing. Actually, two dogs. One dog was in, obviously, the UFC. Had Michael Venom Page. I had Michael Venom Page as well, but I'm saying the Fight Brain had Michael Venom Page. And also Stephen Fulton. A lot of people had Figueroa winning that fight. Thought he would come in and retain the belt. Personally, I did as well. I thought Figueroa would win that fight. The Fight Brain comes out, spins out the Stephen Fulton by unanimous decision, over plus 300. So every week this thing is hitting a big number. This is hitting a fight on the card that's extremely pivotal, whether in DFS or in boxing. The week before that, it was the Barcelos plus 750. Nobody in the industry, including myself, had Barcelos beating Peyton Talbot, and the Fight Brain picked it plus 750. So this thing every week is just getting better and better. We're going to start assigning it some more job responsibility. I just have to do some testing on it. I've been testing something else out for the past couple weeks. It's looking okay. It's like fringe right now, but I'm not just going to release it to release it. So hopefully next week I'll be able to release a new job responsibility for it. But the thing's been unbelievably tremendous. Scary at points. Actually scary at points when if you guys aren't members, or if you guys are members and you guys really read it and you read the breakdowns from the Fight Brain are exactly the way fight goes. I mean, it could be off on a fight. It could maybe go the other way. But as far as the actual breakdowns, the projected stats and stuff like that, it's pretty spot on, which is insane to me. So great tool. Amazing tool. If you want a tool like that, we are the only people that have it. Nobody else has this. It was kind of like created by us. The madlabmma.com, come check us out. You will not be disappointed. The breakdowns are very deep. They dive into every aspect of their game, striking, grappling, who's got the edge, probabilities, projected stats, and then at the end it gives you the Fight Brain crystal ball of how exactly it thinks it's going to unfold. And the thing, honestly, has been spot on. I've been going head-to-head with it for this year so far. We did 3 weeks in a row, and the Fight Brain is up 2-1. I took week 1. Fight Brain took week 2 and 3, just for the mere fact that he had the Stephen Fulton fight, and I had it going the other way. So I missed by 1. Listen, what did we learn from this card, right? We learned, 1, that Israel Adesanya still has his motor functions. He's still sharp. He still has very good offensive movement. Still game planned right. Looked fantastic in that first round. But let's be honest. I think it's time to start saying that, his chin has seen better days. You don't see Izzy chinned like that. Like, you see him chinned. You see him go down. You've seen him rock plenty of times. But like that, to go down like that, I think it's fair to say that his chin is a liability at this point. And I don't care how good of an offensive fighter you are. I don't care how good of a game plan you draw up, how athletic you are, how seasoned you are. If you don't have a chin, it's very hard to win. So got to start questioning it at this point. At this point, it's honestly turning out to be a liability. Imavov fought a good fight. I believe he lost the first round. But like I said, if you're fighting a guy who's got a kind of a dusted chin, you just got to find the mark. And Imavov is very, very capable of finding that mark. So people who did play Imavov, people who did pick Imavov, congratulations to you. You won. The next fight was Shara Bullet versus Michael Page. I just didn't see a way where Shara Bullet was winning that fight. I thought that he would have to really smother Michael Page and catch him with something, and it's just not his game. It's not the style of fight that he fights. He is kind of a nimble fighter. He's on his toes. He doesn't really move a ton of lateral movement as far as to throw you off. He just kind of does it to reset space. And Michael Venom Page is not a guy you can do that with. He's going to be in your face, but he's also going to just tab you and tab you and tab you, and he's not going to overcommit. He will overcommit on one shot, but he overcommits, when he needs to, when he feels like there's really an opening. And if you see the way he lunges forward with those shots, it almost looks like he's going to fall forward, right? It almost looks like he's off balance, and if he misses, he might stumble forward. But the thing that keeps him up is when he hits you, that he regains his balance again. He's a master at it, and I just didn't see a situation where Shara Bullet was going to put enough volume on him to really create a statement, especially in a situation where you need time to figure Michael Page out. You need time to kind of get in there with him and feel him out a little bit. He's not a guy you can just go in there and just go on the offensive with. So we hit that, which was really, really nice. I had Venom Page and Fight Brain had Venom Page. Next fight was Sergey Pavlovich. Kind of the way I thought it was going to go. I honestly thought it would end inside the distance, but I thought Pavlovich was going to be the guy, just bigger, stronger, faster, more athletic, more paths to victory. Can take it down if he wants to take it down, which he did. And I just felt like that was the area of the fight where it was going to take place. Said Magomedov and Oliveira. I was wrong on that. I had said Saeed winning that fight. I got to be honest with you. He looked fantastic, right? If you guys watched the fight in round one, he looked really sharp, really good kicks. And the one thing that I said that Oliveira is he's a dog. He's a kid that, what he lacks in skill, Saeed is going to be the faster twitch fighter in there. He was going to be sharper. He was going to be stronger, better grappling, sneaky guillotines and stuff like that. But what this kid brings to the table is he's going to fight for your money, and he's not going to give up. I just did not expect Saeed to blow his gas tank the way he did. I mean, he came out looking amazing. He was loading up on his punches a little too much, his punches and kicks. I think he was really trying to get him out of there early, trying to prove a point, and it backfired on him. So great win for Lockdog. Next one is the interesting one for me. And I got this one wrong, and it was Farisian versus Mike Davis. Now, I've been following Mike Davis's career forever, all right? And partially was because of the fight on the Contender Series, but even before that, I've followed his fights. Mike Davis is a very, very good fighter with pedigree to be a champion. I still believe that even after this fight. When I was watching that fight, something just didn't sit right with me. I've never seen him pull guard before. I've never seen him not be on the offense. It was almost like he became a counter striker, which was very, very bizarre. Did not utilize his boxing, and even when he did utilize his boxing, I wouldn't even call it boxing. He was kind of overextending. He was loading up. Wasn't really light on his feet. He looked very cemented to the ground. And the whole fight, I kept telling Anthony, I was like, what is up with this? Like, there's something's not right with him. He's either hurt or his Lyme disease is catching up to him. Something is wrong here. So it turned out later on, there was an interview with T-Rex, and they asked him about the locker rooms. And they said that there was certain people that were in the locker room that actually had to leave the locker rooms and go outside and get air because they were painting with some kind of chemical. And then Davis came out and he retweeted and he said, that's what I mean. I was breathing like I was breathing in a straw. I could not breathe. So I'm not making excuses. I got the fight wrong, but I will say this. I've never seen him fight like that before. Never once I ever see him pull guard. Never once did I ever see him go, on the back foot or not really be confident in his chin and his striking. He wasn't even confident in his chin. He wasn't even confident in his stand-up. It's like he wanted to get the fight to the ground, and he wanted to kind of end it with a submission as soon as he possibly can because he felt like he was going to gas out and he needed to get out of there. So that was very, very interesting. Tough luck for us that situation arose, but, those are the breaks. The rest of the fights were okay. McKinney did what he did. Jasmine Jasdavicius looked fantastic. I think we can all agree now that Mayra Borna Silva is kind of, she's seen better days. She's been in her wars. I think you're starting to see that. Overall, though, I think the card was serviceable. It was a serviceable card. Now we move on to UFC 312. You know what? Before we do that, I just want to go over the boxing a little bit. So the boxing, Obviously, Benavidez, I told you guys that was my most confident bet. And for me to put in like a minus 220 is very rare. And I actually had people on Twitter message me, you must be really confident if you put in a minus 220. Because I don't really, when it comes to fighting, I try to stay away from anything over, 2-1. There's just too much involved. And I've seen it happen so many times. And it's something I'm not willing to do often. But when I do it, I'm pretty confident in it. I'm pretty confident. When you see me lay that wood on a 2-1 favorite, he's pretty confident there. He's just a different fighter, and exactly what I said was going to happen absolutely happened. It's not an indictment in any way, shape, or form on David Morrell. This is not an indictment on him. He's a very good fighter. He showed that he's got great heart. He showed he's got power in both hands. He showed that he can box with very, very good fighters, borderline great fighters. But he's just not ready yet. He's not ready for this stage. He's not ready. He showed that he wasn't ready for someone like David Benavidez. And like I said, not an indictment on him, but it was crystal clear. If he did not catch Benavidez with a shot, which he did, he caught him with a nice shot and stumbled him, but if he does not catch him with a clean shot and start putting it on him, the chances of him outboxing him was going to be slim to none. Slim to none. So we hit there. The Figueroa fight, I was a little surprised at. That was one fight I actually didn't get to watch because I wasn't home. I was actually at the movies with Anthony's kids for the youngest birthday. So I was getting updates on Twitter. And it just seemed like it was a very, very boring fight. Everyone was telling me what a boring fight this is. So I watched it when I got home. I actually I stayed up late because I wanted to watch the two fights. I actually missed two fights. I missed the Pitbull Cruz fight, which was insane. And I was following on Twitter while I was out of the house, so I came back to watch that. But the Figueroa fight, I don't know, it was just a very, very bizarre fight. It was a very bizarre fight. Stephen Fulton looked good. He didn't look any better than he usually looks, but Figueroa just didn't seem like he can catch his groove, catch his timing down. But the Benavidez fight and the Pitbull Cruz fight were outstanding fights. Outstanding fights. Pitbull Cruz had a fantastic fight. Possibly fight of the year or candidate already. I would probably put it as a candidate so far. And like I said, with David Benavidez, no indictment in any way, shape, or form on David Morrell. Zero. Great fight. Put up a nice fight. Just not ready. All right, so where am I here? Okay, so for this card, now listen, I know there's a lot of people out there that don't want to spend the $78 or $80, whatever it is, on this card. It's totally, totally justifiable. I am tampering with the idea of possibly doing a live for the people that don't want to pay the money but are still interested. So there is a possibility I may do a live where I'm actually watching them. You won't be able to watch them with me because it's a license infringement, obviously. But I'll be watching it, and I can give you the round for round and stuff like that. So I haven't decided if I'm going to do that yet because obviously the Super Bowl is the next day. But there is a possibility that I do that. So if I do, go to my Twitter, follow me on Twitter at MadLabMMA, and put your indications on. And then I'll let you know. Or even if you don't put your indication, just follow me at MadLabMMA, and I'll tweet something out. So I'll let you know if I do that. But the top two fights, to me, kind of, sort of, are worth its weight in gold. I think this is a really good fight. This is a really good main event. Would I have this main event flipped? Probably. I would probably have Wiley Zhang and Tatiana Suarez as the headliner, and I would have Dricus Du Plessis and Strickland as the co-main. But I understand why they're doing it. I just, personally, for me, I think Tatiana Suarez and Wiley Zhang is more like the A-listers. I think people are a little bit more intrigued in that fight just because of everything that Tatiana Suarez went through, her whole story. And don't get me wrong now. Like, I'm going to break this fight down. Obviously after I do the Strickland Du Plessis fight, we'll get to that. But anyway, so the Dricus fight and the Strickland fight, this is obviously a rematch. These guys fought once before. Dricus won by split decision. Some people thought Strickland won. Some people thought DDP won. Depending on who you picked, if you could take your bias out of it, then I would probably listen to you. There's a lot of people out there, though, they picked DDP. They thought he won. The people picked Strickland. They thought he won. Personally, for me, I did pick Sean Strickland to win the fight. I personally think he won the fight. Not by much. I'm not sitting here saying that, oh, my God, how did DDP win the fight? I thought it was very hairline close, and going to the cards, I said I could kind of make a justification for both guys. I'm not one of those guys. Like when I lose, I lose. I say, look, I lost. Like even with Mike Davis, I said, look, he said something was wrong with him. I kind of believe him, but at the end of the day, I lost. It was a bet that I lost. So I had Strickland in that fight. I do believe he did enough to win. I don't like that he's coming out right now and he's talking about the reason why I lost was because I couldn't see with the cut in my eye and stuff like that. I don't like that. Like that, even if it did bother you that much, there's a point in time where you got to kind of put it away and just say I lost. Like that's it, I lost. Yeah, things happen in a fight, but things happen in every fight. People come in with injuries. People come in with, terrible scar tissue that they got to go 5 rounds. So like Nate, where you're going to open up. You got cut. You got opened up. It happens. I think that it happens, and you can't lean on that as an excuse. So as a Strickland backer, I'm telling him, not a really good excuse. Like go in there and just say, I lost the fight. I got to get this one back. Because there's things in the fight that you could have done that maybe wouldn't have been that close. But the fact that it was that close and you're kind of pointing to a cut doesn't sit too good with me. Du Plessis, the thing with him is so odd with him is he's not a super athletic guy. He's not even built like an athlete. He's built more like a bodybuilder type of guy. He's not built like a lean, elusive looking athlete. He just kind of looks like a lumbering kind of guy. And that's the way he kind of fights. He fights, just puts his foot on the gas pedal when he has to. He gets very lumbering. He's got a good grappling game, but overall there's nothing smooth about his movement. There's nothing graceful. It's nothing pretty to watch. But what he does so good before he even gets in there is he's got this very dry ability to get under your skin. And it's corny. It doesn't even make sense, half of the stuff that he talks very eloquently, he talks very intelligent, but it's not like he's a good trash talker, but he does it in such a dry way that you can see he's that guy that can get under Strickland's skin because he's done it. Made Strickland upset, made him start thinking about his childhood, start bringing up old dirt, old memories, and Strickland's a guy who admitted, look, if I'm going to throw dirt at you, like you should be able to throw dirt back. But there's something that DDP does that digs a little bit deeper. And you got to wonder if that's going to creep its head in again for this fight. Because Strickland overall doesn't think greatly of himself. Strickland's got a very low self-esteem. He's self-admitted that, and this is a guy who could be questioning himself. Am I good enough to beat this guy? Yeah, sure, he's going to go in there and fight to the death, like he says, because he absolutely will. But he's a guy who does kind of question his worth in a lot of things, whether it's sport or life. DDP seems like he's a guy who he just got engaged. He's out fishing. He's kind of feeling himself now. He's on this 8-fight win streak in the UFC. Something to be said about that. It's a very hard fight for me to pick here because I'm looking at a guy who, in Dricus, who is obviously the champion. You got to beat the champion to be the champion. He's beat him once before. He's got a good recipe to beat him. He can get into him mentally. He can match him physically. And then you're looking at a guy in Sean Strickland where it's like, if you get the right Sean Strickland in there, if you get the right mindset, I'm not going to joke around. I'm going to go in there like I'm going to fight like my life depends on it here. Strickland is the overall better fighter. He's the better fighter. He's the better athlete, the much better boxer. He's serviceable on the ground. So he's actually the better fighter. He's got the better cardio. We know that. He doesn't have to take off that 40 and 60% that Dricus was saying. He can go at a same pace the entire fight. The guy's cardio is incredible. So where do you go from there? Do you ride with momentum? Do you ride with the champion? Do you ride with the guy that can kind of get under his skin a little bit? Or do you ride with this story, the Sean Strickland story, where he's going to come out and he seems like he's got a different mentality for this fight and he's a little bit more humble and he's not talking so loud and brash. He's in there to do a job. And he really does believe in his heart that he lost that fight because of that cut. I personally don't like it. He personally believes, and he's come out and said, listen, I beat this guy 9 out of 10 times if that cut never happens. So maybe he does believe that. Maybe that's true. I don't know. I'm not sitting here to make that decision. But I just feel like when you take both of these guys at their best and you put them in a cage together, I think Strickland's the one that comes out majority of the time more than DDP. Not that he's willing to dig a little deeper, but I think there is a point in time where he's willing to dig a little deeper. I don't know. Very, very interesting fight. I don't think you're wrong for picking either way. If you pick DDP, I can't argue with you. He beat him already. If you tell me it's going to be a 25-minute stand-up fight and he's going to outstrike Strickland, I'd probably say no, that's not going to happen. I think he has to tie his grappling together. I think he has to tie his wrestling together in order to beat Strickland. So there's certain ways that you can't justify it. But on the Strickland side, too, you could say, what if he can keep it standing? What if he shucks some of those takedowns and he could keep it on the feet? Strickland can take an early lead and kind of just start pulling away at the end. Or maybe lose the first two and win the last three. So there's so many ways that this fight can go that I can see going, that there's really no right or wrong answer. I'm just leaning on Strickland because I do believe that if the judging was proper and the judging was correct, Strickland should have won the fight. And I'm not the only one that thinks that. Dana White thought that. There was a lot of people who thought that he won the fight. But there was also a lot of people that thought DDP won the fight. So we're going to hash this one out. I personally don't know how he's a plus 180. When you have a fight that goes split decision and it's a hairline close fight, where does the plus 180 come in? I don't see that. You know what I mean? So that's interesting line to me. But I'm going to go Sean Strickland. I'll go Sean Strickland by decision and no. All right, next fight is the co-main. This is my main event. Weili Zhang and Tatiana Suarez. We all know Tatiana Suarez's story, right? I think anybody who knows anything about fighting has been touting Tatiana Suarez. This is a girl who's been wrestling since she's 3 years old. She's got all the credentials in the world to be a world champion. The problem with Tatiana Suarez is for the longest time, this girl can't get out of her own way. And I'm not saying it's her fault, but I'm just saying things have happened to this woman that you just can't imagine. She's had cancer 2 times. She had that, broke her neck. She had the knee injury. She just can't stay in the cage. But when she's in the cage and when she's healthy, we all know what Tatiana Suarez can do. She's a high pedigree wrestler. Grappling is off the charts, a little bit one-dimensional. She doesn't really got great boxing and stuff like that. But I've always said this, in women's MMA, if you can have a really solid wrestling game, this is what made Carla Esparza so good, back in the day. She had wrestling. She wasn't a good fighter. She wasn't a great fighter. She didn't have that dog in her. But she had the ability to wrestle a little bit better than the other girls in the division. Tatiana Suarez has the ability to wrestle a lot better than the girls in the division. So her path has been just every time she fights, she's just taking these girls down, controlling them on the ground. We look at someone like Weili Zhang, and you look at her credentials, and you look at how she wins her fights. She wins her fights by mixing everything up. She has great wrestling. She has got good grappling. She's got good striking. Probably one of the more powerful girls in the strawweight division I've ever seen. And she's she's got extremely good cage IQ. The problem I got with both of these girls separately is Tatiana Suarez is 11-0. Her experience isn't really all that there. She's got an 18-month gap in her last fight. Concerning for me. That's concerning for me. The concern I got with Weili Zhang is she's 25-3. Okay, she's been in some wars. We've seen the fights with, Joanna Jędrzejczyk and stuff like that. She's been in her war. She's 35 years old. Even though Tatiana Suarez is 34, she hasn't been in these kind of wars. So those are kind of concerns for me. Another concern I have for Tatiana Suarez is the experience. The experience. Sure, she's got great wrestling. Sure, she's credentialed. Sure, she runs through most of the girls that she fights, but she's never fought anyone like Weili Zhang, and she's never been 5 rounds with somebody like Weili Zhang. What happens if Suarez really can't get her wrestling going, or gets her wrestling going early, the first 2 rounds, maybe picks up the first 2 rounds, and all of a sudden, 3rd round, that shot's not looking as good as it did. The 4th round, it's not looking as good as it did, and now Weili Zhang's got the advantage on the feet. She's got the advantage with the experience. Maybe she goes to surprise her and secure her own takedown. So there's a lot of variables involved in this fight. I like Suarez a lot, but I'm saying I'm gonna put a tag on this like I did with David Benavidez and David Morrell. Suarez is a very good fighter. Has all the markings to be a champion. I just don't think she's ready right now for Weili Zhang. I think I'd like to see her cook a little bit more. And I understand she can't cook because every time you let this girl cook, she gets hurt. So it's now or never for her. And I believe that. I believe that if she doesn't get this title shot now, who knows what's going to happen to her? Who knows if she's even going to make it to the cage? Like you really got to think about that with her too. That's just the kind of luck she has. You don't know if this girl's going to actually make it to the cage yet. So I don't know. I got a more active Weili Zhang. hits like a truck. He's got good grappling. Yes, she could be taken down, but she's pretty good on the ground. She's got good wrestling of her own. She's faster. She's got better timing. She's more active. She's fought the much better level of competition. I don't know. I think if Tatiana Suarez wins this fight, she's going to really have to control Weili Zhang from pillar to post, and she very very much might be able to. But I'm not willing to sell off Weili Zhang just yet. You know what I mean? Like, just say, okay, well, Tatiana Suarez is here. Like, everyone else has to watch out. I don't think people realize how good this girl actually is. So I think Tatiana Suarez is going to be a champion one day. I just don't think it's going to be Saturday night. So I'm going to go Weili Zhang. I wouldn't be shocked if maybe she finishes her really late, to be honest with you, or it goes to the cards. Close fight. If it goes to the cards, you're looking at a really close fight, possibly even a split decision. But I'm going to lean with the champ. Next fight, I'm going to go down to Jimmy Crute and Rodolfo Bellato. The Justin Tafa fight, I'm not even going to talk about. Two heavyweights, not super impressed with either of them. Obviously, and I always said about Justin Tafa, I will never bet against Justin Tafa again. Just for the mere fact that I seen him fight live. I was second row watching him fight at the Apex Center. And the power that this guy hits with and the torque that he hits with his legs and his hands, you can't appreciate it until you're there. Not saying he's a great fighter, because he's not. But he's the type of fighter that it doesn't matter who you are. You could be Superman. If he catches you with something, you're done. You're going to sleep. So just for that reason alone, I made a promise to myself, leaving the Apex Center, I'm never betting against this guy. Maybe I won't bet for him because I think he's going to lose a fight or whatever, but I will never bet against him. I think that's silly, stupid money to bet against a guy like that has that much torque behind his shots. Jake Matthews and Francisco Prado. It's a good fight. It's an interesting fight. I just, the thing with Jake Matthews, right, is super, super weird because he's so young still. He's only 30 years old, and I feel like this dude has been fighting forever. He came into the UFC very, very young, and I've been highly critical of Jake Matthews just for the mere fact that I know what kind of fighter he could be, and this kid just refused to leave his father and leave his soil, and that's fine. I get the loyalty. I understand. It doesn't mean that they can't be in your corner and they can't do all these things, but at what point in time do you stretch? Like, what point in time do you stretch your skills out? And he started doing that kind of recently. Like, he started just recently doing it. Is it too late? I don't know. But he should have did this a long time ago. He should have expanded his knowledge. He should have went to other camps, got different looks. And then, you come back to your home soil and you kind of do what you learned with the people in your room. So Francisco Prado, I like him. I think he's a tough kid. I think when he puts on the gas, he puts on the gas. But I just think Jake Matthews is better than him everywhere. I think he's a better striker. I think he's a better grappler. I think he's a better wrestler. I think he's a better athlete. So it's just a fight for me where this is like Jake Matthews or nothing. So I'll go Jake Matthews here. I'm going to say Jake Matthews subs him. Last fight we're going to break down, but before we do that, we're going to let Mackenzie come in. We missed Mackenzie last week. That was my fault. I was so entrenched with so much shit that I didn't get her. But she will come in now, and she will give her prediction of the lock of the week.
What's up, guys? Happy February. This week, I'm going to give you guys a pick that the line is a little bit higher than I normally like to go, but I do like him a lot in this spot, so it makes up for it. Jake Matthews seems to be the forgotten man, and for his own self-inflicted reasons, but it does not take away from the fact that he is better than Prado everywhere. I think this is a really sweet spot for Matthews, even if you are laying at 2-1 odds. If you want to get tricky, you can sprinkle a little on the second round sub as well, which is currently sitting at plus 650.
All right. Jimmy Crute and Rodolfo Bellato is the last fight we're going to break down. Jimmy Crute, what can I say about him? I will say this. He's definitely a victim of being a fighter that is better than his record indicates. That's the best way I can say Jimmy Crute. I don't like what he did in his last fight. He apparently put his gloves down and he was retiring, and then he ends up coming back, and now he comes back, and apparently he was training in Thailand with Jake Matthews, which is cool. It's a good sign. It was a good sign for Matthews because I've always wanted Matthews just to keep kind of extending. But outside of 2020, his fight against Modestas Bukauskas, he just has shown no ability to have good cage IQ. He has shown no ability to kind of elevate his game in any way, shape, or form, and it shows. After the Bukowskis fight, he TKO stoppage to Anthony Smith. Then he loses to Jamal Hill. Then it's a majority draw with Alonzo Menifield. Then he comes and he gets submitted by Alonzo Menifield. Like, you're not supposed to get submitted by Alonzo Menifield. It's just not supposed to happen. You know what I mean? That's like me beating a kid that runs track at a 40-yard dash. Like, it's not supposed to happen. You know, so that was and then he put his gloves down to make matters worse. So now we're sitting here, we're going, all right, well, what do we do here? Like, what do we do in this situation now? With a guy like this, put his gloves down, hasn't won a fight in 4 fights, and he's taken on a guy in Bellato who hits hard. I wouldn't say I'm impressed with him. I would say I like the way he kind of hangs in fights when he needs to hang in fights, and then he'll find a way. You know, that's the best way I could describe him. But this is a spot. Honestly, I think Jimmy Crute finds a way to win. He's still only 28 years old. You're really going to find out if he's dusted in this fight. If he gets knocked out, if he gets submitted, I think the Jimmy Crute experiment is over. I think the Jimmy Crute experiment is over as far as, like, thinking title aspirations or ranked or anything like that. But as far as Jimmy Crute experience being in the UFC, this is it. This is boom or bust for him. I think this is a fight he gets back. And then I think what's going to happen is you're going to see the spotty record again. You'll see him winning 1, losing 1, winning 2, losing 1. Like, he's never going to just string 5, 6 fights together. It's just not going to happen. I don't think his chin will allow it. His cage IQ won't allow it. And it's just I don't think he's good enough. You know, but I will say this. I think he gets this one done. I think he gets his back off the wall here. He saves himself to fight another day. And then probably his next loss or 2, maybe he'll throw the gloves down again. But he's young. He's only 28 years old. You know, so it was kind of odd. I understand. One thing I do agree with what Joe Rogan used to say all the time is you should not interview a fighter when they're so emotional after a fight. Like, immediately after a fight, you're putting a fucking microphone in their face and they're you know, talking. How many guys have you seen? George St. Pierre walked away. Like, think how many weird interviews that you've seen right after a fight when these guys just took all this head trauma and stuff and they're emotional. And I think it's time I got to leave. I got to take a break, or I don't know what's next for me, or you've seen it over and over again. So it could have been an impulse reaction where Jimmy Crute was just like, you know what? And then, like, maybe a couple weeks down the road, he was like, man, what did I do? Like, why did I do that? I'm only 20 years old. You know, so we'll see what happens. But I do think he gets this one done. Then, obviously, Sunday, guys, we got the Super Bowl. That's going to be interesting. I'm going to have full details on the Super Bowl, all our Super Bowl bets. We got about 5 guys doing Super Bowl bets for the Super Bowl. So jump in, man. Jump in. This is the time. Football ends Sunday. It ends. This is our season now. This is our season where we give out the best content, the beefiest content. We cover all combat sports. We got Mikey Tams in there cleaning up with basketball. We got NASCAR around that we're doing NASCAR. But the meat and potatoes of everything that we do is mixed martial arts and boxing and BKFC. And I can promise you, you will not even find a company that could, you know, rub the back of our sneakers when it comes to content. So if you're a combat sports enthusiast, you love a really good community, come, we want you a part of the family this year in 2025. So that's it. I will talk to you guys later.